welcome you all to this second video in the Gillette 2019 question answer session series. Basically today we will be discussing the second part, like in the earlier video we have discussed the electrical technology question, then 15 questions. Then today we will discuss the common question. This is common for all computer application questions. There are 20 questions, and we'll try to discuss the answers in detail. So let's start without wasting any time. So during this is the actual question of Gillette 2019 computer application. So computer application question starts from 36 to 20 questions, they up to 55. So let's quickly start. This is question is, you can see information about the first partition of the logical address space of a process is kept in the. So let me tell you that the logical address space of a process, this information actually, who keeps this information? This actually OS keeps this information. And where it keeps, basically there are two places where it can be actually, either global descriptor table or the local descriptor table. Now let's see what each one keeps from. Let me show you some portion from Galvin's OS book. Now concentrate on this two line. So the information about the first partition is kept in the local descriptor table known as LDT, and information about the second partition is kept in the global description table GDT. Okay, for details you can read from this book. This is 8.7.1 section. This is given. Okay, moving on to next question. So the performance of cache memory is frequently measured in terms of a quantity called. Now there are four options. Let me tell you how you can answer, because for CS background students it may be a bit easy, but for those who are from other departments, they may feel a bit tough, these questions. So let's say we are also some other question related to other terms may come in examination, so we should know the terms. So let us know what is page fault and page replacement. So what is this page fault and page replacement? These are basically related to virtual memory and physical main memory, that is RAM. This paging or demand paging and mapping related, that is the mapping from the virtual memory to the main actual physical memory, the RAM. This mapping is done by the operating system, and this is this page fault and page replacement. All these are related to main memory or primary memory. Again, heat ratio, this is actually the percentage of memory access satisfied by the cache. So some information is kept in the cache, and when the processor requires that information, it first looks into the cache. If it gets in the cache the data, then this is actually a hit. And if it is the data is not available in the cache memory, then the processor has to look for it into the main memory RAM. Then this is actually a miss. So more the information the processor get from the cache, then the process is faster. And this heat ratio is the percentage of memory access, that is number of times. Suppose 100 time data is accessed by the CPU, and if you say 90 times it is getting the data from the cache memory, but 10 times it happens that data is not available in the cache, so it has to go to the main memory to fetch the data. Then in this case heat ratio will be 90%. Similarly, another term is defined, that is miss ratio. Miss ratio is 1 minus heat ratio. So 90% heat ratio means 10% miss ratio. Now let's know the other one, number of bits per track. This is related to CD or DVD storage, or we say normally long-term tertiary storage, tertiary memory. So there we have the tracks and we have the sectors. So bit per track is related to that. So I hope you already got the answer. Basically only the heat ratio is related to the cache memory, and the question is asked in terms of the performance of cache memory, and here is the cache heat ratio. So heat ratio is the answer. Okay, moving on to next question. Now this is related to file control block, and the question is that out of the four options like file permission, file size, file data block and file name, which one is not contained in the file control block. So let's see what a typical file control block contains. Let's see in the pictorial we see that file permissions, the file date, when it is created, when it is last accessed, modified, when it is written, file owner, who is the owner, who can write, who can read, group ACL, these are all security related, file size, and other than that file name and pointed to file data blocks. So what we see that also, let's see in detail that all the data related to the file are stored in the file control block only, but the actual data of the file, so all these are metadata, data about the data, but the file, suppose it is a movie file, then the movie itself is not kept in the file control block. All other thing, name of the movie, length of the movie, or the who can play the movie file, what type of file is, all this data is kept in the file control block, but the actual movie, the frames, the scenes, that movie, that video file, that data, that is not kept in the file control block. So answer is basically the C, the file data blocks. Actual data of the file does not kept in the is not kept in the control block, but all other file data related data, that is known as metadata, that are kept in the file control block. So answer is C. Let's say next question. It is actually mathematical, 9's complement. So how we generally how we obtain 9's complement? It is very simple. To obtain a 9's complement of a number, suppose a number I have 5, I want to get the 9's complement of it, so it will be 9 minus 5, that is 9's complement, that is 4. So in this way, first we are having 5 letter, 1 2 3 8 9. So we see 1 2 3 8 9. So first let's write 5 nines. Under that you write the actual number 1 2 3 8 9. Now subtract each number from the 9. So if we subtract, what do we get? 9 from right side, 9 minus 9 0, 9 minus 8 1, 9 minus 3 6, 9 2 7 1. So this is the 9's complement. So this is already we got the answer, but let's, for your sake of clarity, or sometimes it may happen that in the exam it comes that as 10's complement. You have to find 10's complement. And now how we can do? First find 9's complement, then add 1 to it, then you will get 10's complement. So if we add 1, then what we will get? We get this one, 1 0 plus 1 1, this 1 is 1 6, everything is same, so this is 1, so this is 10's complement. Okay, moving on to next question. This is again a mathematics type question. So this is asking for the equivalent octal number of the hexadecimal number, this F3A7C2. So you have to find the equivalent octal number, that is the number will be indexed in 0 to 7. In case of hexadecimal, it is 0 to F. 0 is 0, 0 0 0 0 is 0, and 1 1 1 1, that is 15, is F. So how we can do is, we can go about this like first write the hexadecimal number, done, then convert it to binary. How we do is, it is very easy. F is 1 1 1 1, that is 15, 2 is 0 0 1 0, 2. So 0 will be, if there is no 0, then 0 will be 0 0 0 0, 1 is 0 0 0 1. So this way we have written all for all this. 3 is 0 0 1 1, A is basically 10. So 0 to 9, A is 10, B is 11, C is 12, D is 13, E is 14, and F is 15. So 15 is 1 1 1 1. So we write in binary. Next what we do? Next we from the right to left we group in 3 bits group. We create 3 bits group. The same bits we have created the 3 bits group. So 0 1 0 is 0, then 0 0 0, then 1 1 1. This way we have created until the last. If it happens that last we have only 2 digits, then we append it with a 0. This is done. Now we convert it to octal. How? That is very simple. Already use this table, already we have seen. So on this table you can use this table to convert. Like here it is 1 1 1, so 1 1 1 is 7, 1 0 0 1 0 0 is 4, 1 0 1 0 is 2. This way convert everything into octal, then you have the answer. 74723702. So 74723702. So A is the answer. So these two are important things. So 3-bit grouping and then convert it to octal. Going to next question. So this is, there is a given number 0.6975 and we have to convert it into binary. So for a number with points, the formula is something going like this. We have the given number is this. Now what we have to do, we have to first multiply it by 2, then we get the result. So we get 1.395. So we are having 1 before the decimal point. So we bring the 1 to this here. This one is useful. Next, what remains is 0.395. Okay, in the next step, we again multiply 0.395 by 2 into 2, then we get 0.790. So this 0 comes here. Again do this 0.790 into 2, so we get 1.58. So 1 comes here and 0.58 will go down. So 0.58 into 2, again we get 1.16. So we get 1. So we can keep on doing this. Second we get 0, but our answer is limited to only 4 digits after the decimal point. So we already got 4, actually 5, but we don't need this one. So we got 4. Otherwise, if the answer was asked to for a 5-digit precision, then we can go for this 0 also. So the answer already we have got, that will be 0.1011. So this is C. Okay. Now after compilation of a C program, we get what we get. Normally we see Alt F9, the program executes in TC, Turbo C, and we see that we get executable file something.exe. But the actual process is not like that. Let's see what happens. So what happens when I write a program in C, then very first step is actually pre-processing. What is pre-processing? We write something hash include on the library files, stdio.h, conio.h, all these standard library files. So what happens before compilation, the pre-processing is done. All the content of those files are bring to the main your source file, and the source file size becomes huge. Then in the next step the compilation happens, and during the compilation, basically what happens, this compiler, what it does, it actually translates the program into a object file .obj that actually has the machine language code. But that code is not, you cannot run, you cannot execute that code, because there are some standard operating system dependent libraries or DLL or different kind of C libraries that are already pre-compiled into object file. So after you generate your objective file, then that objective file needs to be linked with all other related library files, and their address relocation is some process is called address relocation, that is also to be done. Then the final exe is generated, that you can run on any machine. So if the question is after compilation of C program we get, then after compilation of C program we basically get an object file, not exe file. Exe file we get after linking. So the answer is object file A. Okay, this is the next question. Here this question is related to basically compiling again. This is in the first pass, the assembler reads the program to collect symbols defined with offsets in a, so symbols are collected in a, this is answer is from very easy from here also. This program control table, no, not an option. Page table is also related to that paging we already talked about. Hash table is also not used here. So only remaining thing is symbol table. And see, if you have gone through this part, the compiling part, so the compiler what actually it does in the first half, it collects actually labels and opcode and all. Let's see, we have this for a 2-pass assembler implementation. In the first step we have basically pass 1 creates this mnemonic and opcode mapping and the symbol table. This symbol table, it creates the symbol table in the first pass. In the second pass, the symbol table is used to generate the actually object codes. So here the answer is basically D, symbol table. Now this is a very big question but easier one. The question tells that identify the true statement from the following. So expectation is that out of the 4 options, there will be three options that are not true, basically false, and one is true. Let's read one by one. First is multi-user operating systems depend upon computer systems with special hardware that permits different processors to be assigned to different user. No, this is not true. Basically, normal the workstations may be used as a multi-user operating system. No special hardware is required, and not in a multi-user operating system there is nothing like that the particular processor is assigned to a user. This is not the case. Any processor could be working for any user. Basically, different use in a multi user operating system, many different users like Windows NT or Unix, many different users actually submit their job, and that job is there is a scheduler, and that scheduler actually assigns, that scheduler may assign that job to any of the processor and it gets done. So there is nothing like a special hardware that permit different processor to be allocated to different user, nothing like that. So the option A is false. Let's say option B. Text based user interfaces are easier to use though less powerful than graphic user interfaces. Now that is actually the opposite thing is written. Text based user interface, that means basically DOS kind of thing, DOS or Unix shell, then that are not easier to use, that are difficult to use, but they are more powerful. Scripting operating system, scripting language, all these are more powerful, but that are not easier to use. For a layman, for a someone who does not read computer science, for him the Windows is very easy than the DOS or then Unix. Linux is easy than Unix because there you have good user interfaces. You can just double click and run. But in case of command prompt, you have to type a script, you have to commands, then run. So command prompt is not user friendly. So and not easier to use. So here the word it is written text based user interfaces are easier to use. This is false. Again, though less powerful, it is also false because text based user interfaces are more powerful but difficult to use, and graphic user interface GUI that are basically very much easier to use, but they are not they are easier to use, user friendly, but they are not very powerful. That is why most of the programmers or who do hardcore coding or that kind of thing, or the server administrator, they use basically the Unix or they use command prompt, not the user interfaces, not the basically the GUI. They don't normally don't use that. So okay, let's come to C. C says context switching means that the operating system causes the processor to divide its attention between a series of different user processes. Now, if you know the context switching, then you know the answer that this is right. Why? Because context switching means actually I am running, suppose I am running multiple, I am running a PPT and I am playing some video or I am playing some audio, the song is running. So what is context switching? The operating system, what it does, it actually some time slice of the processor it assigns for the one job, that is the PPT, and then in the next some millisecond it goes to the other process, that is the playing a song or audio. So it keeps on switching and it switches so fast that we don't understand that this is actually switching. We think that it is always the PPT is running and that is also running, but the processor actually switches from one to another very quickly. So it is true. Now D is virtual memory expands the amount of space allowed for storing data and instruction by dedicating special cache memory unit to hold this information temporarily. This is also false because virtual memory is not at all related to cache memory. Virtual memory, paging, demand paging, all these are related to basically main memory and secondary memory. In case of paging or demand paging, swap space, what happens basically some portion of the secondary memory or hard disk is act as primary memory so that the processes become speedy. So answer is C, all other are false. Let's go to next question. So the next question is which is not a multitasking operating system. So we have already known all this: Windows 2000 XP, DOS, and Windows NT. So what is multitasking? Let's know. Multitasking means multiple application or user program are open simultaneously. What already I have told, that we are running a PPT and at the same time some song is playing in the background. So this is actually multitasking. Two tasks are running at the same time, and we know we cannot do this in DOS. Suppose you have only command prompt. Actually, DOS is now become a part of Windows. You only get a command prompt in a window and other things are running. But earlier, when DOS is only the operating system, you have nothing except the DOS. Only the command prompt is the computer. So when some computer have some problem when run in DOS mode, to correct it, then only we get the command prompt, only the prompt, nothing else. So there we can only execute only any one thing at the time. Only one program we can run. Once it finishes, then it runs the next. So DOS does not support multitasking. So the answer is B, DOS. Okay, next question. The program that accepts a symbolic language program and produces its binary machine language is called. So for that, the options are assembler, interpreter, application software, and a compiler. We know that application software is not basically anything that compiles something. That is a system software, not an application software. OS or compiler, that are always system software. So C is not an option. So other three we need to know: what is an assembler, what is an interpreter, and what is a compiler. Let's see what are the difference between them. Then we will know the answer. So if you read this carefully by pausing the video for a minute, then you can see that basically the compiler is a software that convert program written in a high level language into machine language. High level language to machine language like C, C++. This kind of language to machine language, in the binary language, the software that converts this one, this is a compiler. So C has a compiler, C++ has a compiler. But again, let's go to assembler, the last one, the software that convert program written in assembly language, that is hex code, mnemonics, assembly language program into machine language, that is the assembler. So assembly language program to machine code, that is binary, that is done by an assembler. So only we have .asm files, assembly language, then that converts is done. Actually there is only one assembly language, and that assembly language is converted to binary by an assembler. And what is interpreter? Interpreter basically translate a high level language into machine language, but what it does line by line, not the whole. In case of compiler, whole program is compiled into executable code, then anybody can, anywhere it can execute. But in case of interpreter, like JavaScript, Python, Ruby, PHP, Perl, all these languages are scripting language, or we can say interpreted language. In this case, you have this program is run one by one. One line is read and that line is executed, then the next line is read. So that is basically difference between compiler and interpreter. Now in this case, the question says the program that accepts a symbolic language, suppose this is language program, that means the source program or source code, and produces its binary machine language. So from a source program to binary machine language, a program is doing that, so that program must be a compiler. Okay, now we have a C code. And what will be the answer? Now there could be two answers for this question. Let me tell you, this a equal to -3 minus 3. If you consider there is no space between all this -3, then no space, minus 3, there is no space in both the cases, then that will be an actually error, that the program will not compile or execute. But if we take that there is some space, -3 space minus space minus then 3, again -3 space minus then bracket then -3, so there is a space between these minuses, then the answer will be -3 minus -3, so 0. -3 minus 3, so this bracket will act as a minus into minus, that become plus. So -3 minus this, minus plus means minus, so -3 minus 3, so that will be -6. So we have already run this and this is the result. So you can check, the result is 0 and -6. So answer is B. So this will be basically minus into minus, so this will be plus 3, then outside one more minus, so that is minus 3 minus plus 3. So plus minus means minus, so minus 3 minus 3, that is 6. Okay, let's go to next question. Then this question tells a do while loop is used when we want the statement within the loop must be executed. So let me tell you, do while and only while, the while loop and do while loop, the main difference is that in case of while loop, first condition is checked. If the condition inside the while loop is true, like while x greater than 5, then do this. So if x value of x is greater than 5, then only the inside block or whatever you write inside the while loop, that will get executed. But in case of do while, the situation is like this. Let's say then example. In this case, suppose do something, do print n, then while I less than is equal to 20. Suppose I value is 0, then it is fine. I less than is equal to 20, it will do this. Suppose I value is 50. I is not 0, this is I is equal to 50. Then what will happen? Do this. So this will first, what happen? This will print this n percent d n I, that is it will print 50. Then I value will be increased to 52. Then it will check the condition while I less than is equal to 2. So here it will find that I value is 52, that is not less than is equal to 20. So this condition is false. So the program will exit, but it have already printed I printf that percent d and this I value of 52 already printed, I value of 50 already printed. So even if the condition is wrong, this print is already executed. So in case of do while, the do loop at least once it will execute even if the while condition is false. So answer is A, that it will, the do while loop loops or executes at least once even if the condition inside the while is false. Okay, next question is again a C question. So it asks that out of these 4 options, which line we should put in here so that the program runs and generate an output in the here of 45. It should print 45. So j equal to 45. So which of these 4 line we should put here? So what is given? Int j star pointer. That means this pointer, this ptr is a pointer to a location or to a variable that contains integer value. So star pointer, star means value operator. So whenever you put a star before the pointer, that means actually the variable. So when we write star pointer equal to 45, that means that the value at the place where this pointer is pointing, the value is 45. So what is missing here? The missing thing is a relation between j and this pointer. This relationship is missing. So what is this j? Basically j is the address of the this pointer. What is pointer? This pointer is the address of this integer j. There is somewhere some j is there, then j is pointing to this location, so address of that will be given by this pointer. So how we write this? That pointer is actually address of this j, address operator is ampersand. So we have to write ptr equal to ampersand j. That means the address of the variable j is kept in the pointer variable. So we have already tried this, and this is the result. ptr is equal to ampersand j we have added, and the program run and output is coming as 45. So answer is B. Now what is the output of this C code? In the C code, so print a %c, this a b c d e f g h, then index 4. So normally you should say that runtime error or no output will be printed. No, actually you will say runtime error, but no, look it carefully. This actually inside double quote a b c d e f g h, that means basically an character array in C. So basically that is an character array. And when you are giving 4, so character array in C is indexed to start from 0. So this first is 0, say 1, 2, 3, 4, E should be printed. For that, to clarify your point, I have run 2 examples. That is, let's say in the example first I have taken, for that printf readily the output is coming as E. So that is done, E is answer C. But to clarify it more, I have what happened that we have written character array and X equal to ABCDFGH. This is basically equivalent, writing this directly or writing it as a character array X. Now I have printed that print %C X4, then again E is printed. So basically writing this directly or first defining it as a character array, then putting this character here, both are same. So we can do other way, anyway. So answer will be E. So this is valid, this is not an error condition. Now next question. This is very simple question, already you know the answer. A cable interconnects 20 computer and 2 printer in a single office so the user can share the printer. This configuration is an example of LAN, MAN, WAN and VPN. So VPN is virtual private network, that is a simple separate thing not related to this connections. LAN is the very smallest local area connection, that is that runs within an office premises, that is LAN, and MAN is actually metro area network. So in that case basically if some company has 4-5 head office and side office in a city, within the city, within a very limited range, then that offices, that all the offices itself has some LAN connection, some 20 and 20 computer they are connected, and then those offices are connected through a line network, then that network is MAN. And WAN is wide area network, that is basically some offices in India and some office maybe in USA, Hawaii or whatever, any other places throughout the globe, and then that kind of, and they are connected through internet, then that is a WAN, wide area network. And VPN is virtual private network, that is not related to all this. VPN actually some tunneling and for secure communication between one office to another. So in this case, in a small office setup, all are connected, then that is LAN basically. So option C is the answer. Now which layer handle the creation of data frame? This is related to, question is related to OSI model. So let's see what if whatever is the duty of each of the model, each of the layers. There are 7 layers, we know. So if you go back to the very first layer, that physical layer, there only the bits are there, the electrical signals. And then the just above layer, that is data link layer, it has 2 sub layers, MAC and LLC. So but as a whole it is data link layer. The answer question is, in the answer we have only physical, data link, session and transport, and we see the data is frames. So data frame is actually created in the data link layer. In the above layer, that is network layer, we have actually packets, and in the transport TCP layer we basically have segmentation, and session or presentation onward we actually get the data layer, that is host layers. In the host layer we actually get the data, but this part. So the answer is, for data link layer it is the frames, data frame, we call it data frame. So data frame are created in the data link layer. Moving on to next question. A device operating at the network layer is called. So for that, this is also again from that same area topic. So let's see the whole thing so that it will help with other questions also related to this. So now here we see that hub or repeater, these actually hubs and repeater work in the physical layer. Actually what hub do, hub whatever data it gets, it actually broadcast to all, send it to all. Hub has no brain. So repeater, what is repeater doing? Repeater is basically when the signal becomes low, it actually get the signal, it again retransmit the same thing. It doesn't try to understand or read the thing, it only amplifies the data or amplifies the electrical signal. So it is working actually in the physical layer, actual wear level. In the data link layer we have basically the data as frames, so we have the switch and bridges. So bridges are basically bridge between the two network small in a same area, so that is actually L2 switch. Layer 2 switch actually work this. Switch has some brain, it actually read the data, and it actually read and send to the proper, checking the MAC address, it sent to the proper recipient. So switch and bridge are in the second link layer, and in the network layer we have actually packets, and in the network layer the routers work in the network layer. So our question was what works in the network layer. The answer will be the router. Router works in the network layer. Router, what it does, it actually transfer data from one network to another network, or not transfer, it actually routes the data. It check if the data, the address of the recipient, or that is there in the data packet, and then accordingly it routes the data packet or IP packet to the proper network. So from one network to another, this routes the data, that is the device is known as router, and this is operate in the network layer. So next question. Okay, for electronic mail transmission, which protocol is used? So there are 4 protocol, and you may have question on any of the protocol. So it is better, rather than knowing the answer, we should know the 4 options clearly, so that any other question related to all other options we can answer. So let's see. So this is the FTP. FTP is basically file transfer protocol. Actually, some of you might have know the PuTTY software. That is actually an FTP. There is another one, SFTP, secured FTP. So FTP is basically used to upload a file from your system to some other server, or to get a file from the server, all that kind of thing. This is known as file transfer protocol. Okay, HTTP, this is hypertext transfer protocol. All we know, all the website or HTML pages, all this, there are the hyperlinks. So we click the link and we reach the another web page. So all these are basically HTTP, and there is another HTTPS, that is the secured hypertext transfer protocol. So these are actually used for websites or web pages, web servers. Next is SMTP. This is actually simple mail transfer protocol. So the name actually suggests the answer. So for electronic mail, this is the protocol, simple mail transfer protocol. It says all. And also let's know the last point, TCP/IP. TCP/IP is basically transmission control protocol, and IP is the internet protocol that is actually used to send the data when a session is established, two-person is doing some secure transaction, that kind of data transfer is done using TCP/IP. So answer is basically CSMTP. And this is the last question. So HTTP server uses the port number. So now the port number, every application has different port number in the computer. All these are virtual port number, because when data comes from one system to another system, it has to know which application has requested. From your browser, maybe you have requested google.com, so that data is coming through your network port, internet. Again, you are chatting with someone using Facebook Messenger, so that is some data is also coming. So now the data has come to our Ethernet port. Now computer has to decide that which data will go where, which data is for your website Chrome or google.com, which data is for your chat, something like that. So for that, the port number is used along with the data. So now it knows that the Chrome browser has sent an HTTP request, so it knows that particular this port number is for HTTP, so the data is tagged with that port number. That data will go to the browser. Again, some data is tagged with the mail or the chat, so tagged with that port number, that will go to chat or mail. Let's see some of the common application and their port number. So you see that FTP already we have discussed in the last slide, that uses basically port number 21. Now FTP data, that is FTP control and data, FTP use two port number 20 and 21. Again 23 is used by Telnet. Telnet is also a remote login facility that normally people use or administrator use to log in to a server that is kept in a different place, and they log in from using internet from another place, remote place. So again SMTP, already we know, simple mail transfer protocol, that uses actually port number 25. So DNS, domain name server, that use port number 53, and HTTP, that use port number 80. So our answer is D. Also let me tell you that sometimes people say that for HTTP server port number is 8080 instead of writing 80. Why? This is because this port 80 is used to send the data, and again to receive the data same port 80 is used. So that's why sometimes some website you may find that website xyz.com:8080. So that is because some say port 80, some say port 8080, because the same port 80 is used for receiving and transmitting. But that is not always the case. Like in case of some other mail protocol, POP3, and there are some other mail protocol to receive offline mails from using other like you can use your mail feature to retrieve Gmail or Yahoo Mail, that kind of exchange server. Their port numbers are different for receiving and sending. So that is not always the true that receiving and sending port number will be same. So, and this HTTPS we already discussed, basically secured HTTP, hypertext transfer protocol, secure hypertext transfer protocol, that uses port number 443. So here our answer is 80. So we are done. We are already 55. So thank you. And in the next video, we'll start with ZILET 2018 questions. Thank you.